Hearing Youth, an ICMS podcast series proudly brought to you by the 10th Council of ICMS Malaysia chapter.
Passionate youth of Malaysia, welcome to the third episode of the ICMS Hearing Youth podcast, where we hear you. My name is Daniel, and I'll be your host for today's episode. If you're a new listener to this series, you might be wondering what exactly is the Hearing Youth podcast. Well, don't worry, I'm here to explain it all for you. So, Hearing Youth is a series under the ICMS podcast. It's basically a monthly series where we aspire to channel valuable insights to empower Malaysian youth all over Malaysia, as well as the rest of the globe. So every 2 months, we'll cover different themes of topics. And in this episode, we'll talk about the exciting topic of entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship culture, the spirit, and why many youths want to instill those types of values and attitudes in them from the very beginning. And in today's episode, we will take a look at where entrepreneurship meets digitalization. So proudly with me today is Mr. Nabil Jalil. Hi, Nabil. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Hey Daniel, thanks for having me. Thank you ICMS as well. Appreciate being here.
Absolutely. So, Nabil, could you, before we dive right into the topic, could you perhaps give a brief introduction of, what exactly you do at the moment?
Right. Okay. So I am the founder and CEO of BlackGrid SEO, which is a data-driven search engine marketing firm where we help local businesses get more organic traffic to their websites by leveraging search engines such as Google, Yahoo, Bing, and even Amazon and Lazada. As long as there's a search button at that platform where you put in keywords in there, we would figure out a way on how to be able to have you and your business or your product to be found first compared to your competitors. So that's basically what we do in the day in, day out. We leveraging the technical aspects of search engine optimization and also using data.
Right. So a lot of like directing the traffic towards your clients' websites, right?
Correct, but in essence, is what we do and trying to make it in short because it's very technical and then there's a lot of different ways of explaining it. But what we do, like day in day out for our clients, is basically increasing the authority, the relevance, and also the popularity of the websites that we deal with, so that eventually search engines have algorithms, right? So when the algorithms see a website, then they know that okay, this website deserves the popularity, deserves the authority and relevance it has right now, then it pushes you up more so that you get more visibility. So because in the physical world, your brand might be the biggest brand in your niche or your industry, but that can't be translated directly to the internet because the algorithm, as much as it's supposed to be designed as a smart system, but actually it's not that smart yet to be able to translate things from the physical world. So we still
Yeah,
have to do this thing called SEO or search engine optimization to allow your brand to be more visible online.
definitely. Honestly, from what you're describing it sounds like a really cool concept, SEO, and like the things you do and how you control these different changes.
Mhm.
So now, before we dive right into this exciting theme, let's dedicate some time for the listeners and as well as myself to get to know you a little better. So let's start with talking about your childhood. So what was your childhood like growing up?
That's interesting. So yeah, that's interesting because I've never actually been asked that question before during interviews.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah. So all
The
right.
first for everything.
Um, growing up, I think I've always been this kind of student that I strive to be in a way that I'm the good guy. I be good with my teachers, with my friends. I try to fit in and things like that. Although I try to excel in my studies and everything, but I knew that I didn't put my best in terms of like I want to be the best, like number one kid and all that. So I've always tried being this person of like um, as long as I get top 10, as long as I have people around me to like me and I can help them in some way, I'll be happy. But as I grew up, I knew that it was more of a like to a philosophical kind of like lifestyle that it doesn't really work in reality, that you still need to have dreams, you still need to have um, a focus in life, and also at the same time I understood growing up that you can't control everything. So yeah, so I guess in some ways, if you were to ask me, like even though I myself run my own business now, if you asked me when I was growing up, I always wanted to just be a pilot, like flying
Mm.
kids and all that, up till the point of even I think 13 or 14 years old. So that changed to being something else. I wanted to become a professional racing driver or Formula One driver because I used to race go
Oh,
karts
yeah.
professionally when I was uh, 12 years old up till 14 to 15 years old. But it got too expensive. We got in by not knowing that it was going to be that expensive.
Yeah.
So I had to stop, and then I delved into different sports like tennis and even taekwondo and different things. But I knew that at that time I always had this feeling that I want to get to Formula One somehow, some way, somehow. So that opted me to choose engineering as a field of study that I thought that okay, eventually maybe I could be an engineer to build a car or be part of a racing team, right? But somehow that did not work out as well in college because I don't know. We might go on into that maybe later on in this podcast. But
Mhm.
yeah, what I realized as well, like sometimes you plan as much as you want to. There are things that you have to adapt to make sure that you take things or your resources around you to make full use of it so then you can be successful sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So honestly, like at that point, like especially since at college, when you
Mm-hmm.
were studying in college, did you imagine
Mm-hmm.
yourself like just being an engineer throughout your entire life, or like was it like how did this step in into your life, like SEO?
All right, like SEO stepped in. All right, great question. So while I was studying, I took mechanical engineering. Right after SPM, I had this two-year program, like a foundational course in Technology Park Malaysia College. I
Hmm.
took 2 years of mechanical engineering there, and then I transferred to California State Polytechnic University, Pomona, where we had like a twinning program there, and I went there as a junior. So when I was there, again, I thought I wanted to join a racing team one day. I actually joined this club called Formula SAE, where we built formula cars from scratch, like
Wow.
engineers, right? And I was
Oh.
lucky enough to. I didn't know this before going to school, because like I said, I was more moving through the motions instead of like
Mhm.
setting goals. Like I want to do this, I want to do that. So I actually missed a lot of opportunities that actually I could have gone to UCLA and things like that, for
Yeah.
which I could have applied, but I mean sometimes take life brings you to a certain point that sometimes it's too
Absolutely.
late, but like I said, make full use of what you have at that moment. So when I got to Calpe Pomona, the university in short, um, our team was actually number one in the West Coast. We beat Stanford, we beat UCLA,
Wow.
and all that. Even Caltech loses to our team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I didn't know that when I was until I got into the team, and
Yeah.
then at that time, um, actually, the fun fact as well: 3 out of 10 engineers in California itself comes from our school. So it's
Jeez.
like a very, because our school is known for this learn by doing model, where we make sure that the engineers, when after we graduate, we don't need more training. We can just start doing work compared to our peers who graduated from UCLA, USC. They might have to go through some training before they can actually do the work. But they are more poised for, like, if they want to go for a master's program or PhD program, they are more adapt towards that. For like us, if we were to go to those kind of programs, it'll be kind of hard for us to be able to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So I know it's like sort of like divergent towards something else, but that racing team that I wanted to join, I spent a year and a half in it, and I built like a few systems along with other co-leads in the team, because at that time I had a goal like, okay, if I do my best, I show that I have passion in this, I put in the work, I could eventually drive the car, because you don't actually just build it, you have to race it.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
sprint race and everything. So when the time came for them to choose the drivers, they knew that I had a racing background. I even trained some of the actual drivers that they chose
Okay.
throughout the time, and we went go-karting and all that. And then I wasn't chosen. So that
Oh.
sort of crushed me. That's like, I mean, I always wanted it, but at that time I thought like, okay, never mind. I could still be part of the team and help out. But
Mhm.
somehow that whole week it bothered me so much. I went to the team lead and I talked to him like, is there any way that you could actually put me in the driving seat? I want to be. I think that's the best I can provide value to the team. I want to make sure that the team wins and all that. And he told me like, okay, actually the people that were chosen, they've put in a lot more work, blah 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 blah, and things like it's more like sort of politics in a way. And then I
Yeah.
realized like the answer would always be no, right? So and then I just okay, I accepted it, and then I went back, and then I knew that okay, actually, uh, I that passion about wanting to drive a Formula One car and race is actually still in me, and it's not about me wanting to be in a racing team. I want to drive the car. I want to be a
Mhm.
racing driver. So I knew from that point in my life I didn't want to be an engineer, because if I still pursued that path and I became like a racing engineer, I would still be unhappy at the pit stop. I would
Yeah.
still be unhappy that I can't get in that car
Yeah.
and
You
things
wouldn't
like
be a
that.
driver.
Exactly. So while I was growing up, also I was interested in business. I saw a lot of people running businesses that basically have a lot of time on their hands. Like say, I could just pick up my son or my daughter from school and spend time with them, and then go back to work and things like that, right? So I like the freedom that it has um, attached to it in a way. And then so since I knew I wasn't going to be an engineer, I contacted my scholarship, and then they told me that okay, if you still want to graduate, you can't change your major to like I wanted to change to finance or maybe like economics to more business sense, so that because at that time I wanted to start my own business but I didn't know what, right?
Yeah.
So they told me like, okay, you can only graduate within your engineering field,
Major.
like whatever that you have in your school. And then at that time, there was only chemical engineering. I knew I didn't like chemistry. There's aerospace engineering. I knew I wasn't that smart to do missiles and all that. And then civil engineering. I wasn't as interested in that as well. Manufacturing engineering. I knew I didn't want to be in a manufacturing plant
Factory.
all
Yeah.
day every day. And fourth one was industrial engineering. I didn't know what it is. I thought it was the same thing as manufacturing engineering, but then I went to meet all the professors like, and even students that were there, and then I
Mhm.
found out that it is actually a study of like uh, optimizing businesses and systems. So it's like a mesh of like engineering and business. Because when I saw the course syllabus, I had to study accounting, I had to study engineering economics, I had to study
Mhm.
coding. So it's like a mesh of like
Yeah.
whatever I learned in my mechanical engineering. I still had to learn fluid dynamics and then whatnot, and then mesh it with the final 1.5 years with more business type related courses that was a bit more focused doing things using statistics. So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, so that's why I got there. Yeah. And then actually when I chose that, that's why I knew that this was like fast forward like 6 months prior to graduation. I knew I want to start my own business and things like that. So I was told this laptop lifestyle idea where okay, I can be in Bali. I just need my laptop and I
Yeah.
sell things online or whatever, and I can make money, right? Or I can just go
Yeah.
back to Malaysia, anything like that. So I started learning how to code HTML, JavaScript, CSS, built websites. And the thing is, at that time, I didn't get traffic to the website. And then as a college student, I guess a lot of people could relate that we're broke at most of the time. We really can't really spend money to run ads to the
Definitely.
website and things like that. Um, and the fact that my campus was like learn by doing kind of model, a
Yeah.
lot of the students that work on campus are actually within their own uh, major or like industry. For example, the hospitality and management students practically take up all the restaurants,
Oh,
all the
okay.
things here on campus. So it's kind of hard for engineering students to like I don't work there. So that's a bit tough. So and then I found some competitors like they still get traffic, and then I saw like this thing called what's organic traffic. I thought traffic is just one thing. As long as you have people going to
Yeah.
your website, is oh, there's actually two different things. And then I found out like okay, there's this thing that you need to do called SEO or search engine optimization for you to be able to get traffic to your website. Then from then on, I went to a lot of courses, like conferences. I do my best whatever I can like learn about it, and
Mhm.
even got a couple of mentors like, okay, this is the best way to do, and I even offered myself to work for them for free so that I can learn. Like, this is what I have,
Yeah.
this is what I have. Can I work for? Of course, the first few times when I asked them to do that, they said no. But since we kept on meeting on different kinds of conferences, they just got tired. I guess they just say like, okay, fine,
Yeah.
you come over and then you could do this. Yeah. So and then closer to graduation, and then I knew I had this ability to be able to use SEO. And my mentors were saying, why don't you start your own consulting company to help
Mhm.
businesses using the skills that you have? And I was thinking, so there's this problem where if you're an international student studying in the US, if you want to work right after graduation, you have to work within your major. So if you're an engineer, you have to work within the engineering field some way, somehow. But the fact that I chose industrial engineering, in hindsight, I did not know this. The actual description of industrial engineering in Department of Homeland Security, it writes that it's a study where we optimize businesses and systems. So I started a company with a description similar to that, for which what my background is, and I put the application in, and then yeah, it got approved, and I could start run my own business. Yeah,
Damn, okay.
yeah. So
That's really cool.
that's
Like how
that's
you.
that's how I started the company. Of course, uh, I didn't do it just doing that way because it would be kind of crazy to just do all that, and then you might get sued, or you because in the US everything you can just get sued at any time, and
Yeah.
so many laws, right? So I actually got help from an attorney, for which I bartered my website building skills. Hey, can I build a website? And you give me your advice on what I need to do. So he helped me throughout the process to make sure that everything is checked and true, so that I wouldn't get in trouble in the future. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that's how I started the BlackGrid at that time. That was after in mid 2015. Yeah.
Right, right, right. That's so interesting. Like the experience and the ride that you've just made me experience as well.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, like how you managed to mesh that, description of industrial engineer into what you do as well. So thank you for sharing that experience with us. So now, I would assume that you'd be relatively familiar with the, whole startup scene because, I would assume that BlackGrid SEO would be quite a successful startup, you know,
Hmm.
because it's already your company as well. And I also know that you're also in charge or you're also associated with this other startup called DatsPro Tech, right?
Yes. Correct.
So could you tell us a little bit about DatsPro Tech? Just a brief description of it.
All right. So that company was founded by, okay, so since I'm in ICMS, and the main founder, or the CEO, his name is KK. He basically came. I mean, we've started talking for quite a while after I came back from the US, and we were interested in the same things. Like, we were interested in data. We were passionate about it. We knew that a lot more business should use the power of data to make decisions in their businesses. So when after having this few meetings with KK, he told me that he wanted to start a business to be able to like help SMEs in Malaysia. Me, KK, and the other two co-founders, which is Ziking and also Kelvin, we are all passionate in terms of wanting to help small medium enterprises, or SMEs in Malaysia specifically, to adopt using technology and also data to be able to have them digitalize their business and make leaps and bounds in terms of growing their business. Because
Hmm.
the reason that we saw is like, in Malaysia there's like IR 3.0, now there's IR 4.0, Industrial Revolution 4.0, where they want companies to be digitally adapt,
Yeah.
to be at the forefront of things with technology, like take things from the US or whatever it is that's out there. But the thing is, a lot of SMEs, they might want to do that, but a lot of them are actually still stuck at IR for 1.0 or 2.0, for which
Hmm.
some of them, for you to be able to get to 1.0, you need a website. That's a
Yeah.
very basic thing that they don't even have sometimes. So we want to be able to help SMEs transition from maybe where they are at 1.0, 2.0, to get them to 4.0, to like help them in their journey. So eventually, we provide consulting, provide bespoke services in terms of creating softwares for companies to use
Right.
their data and collect data. And number three, to be able to have like from these two things that we'll be doing, we'll create like generic softwares and also solutions so that a lot more companies in a specific industry can actually use instead of us
Yeah.
helping one company each and that. Yeah, so that's sort of like why we started the company. We were all thinking of like what we can do to be able to provide to the economy to where Malaysia is growing. So yeah, in short, I know it's kind of long, but in short, that's why we started DatsPro Technologies.
Okay. So, with especially since it's quite a new thing as well, right? It's just something that's completely recent, right?
Yes.
So right now, I'm just gonna ask, especially since most of our listeners who back at home are probably wondering, especially if they want to, just dive into entrepreneurship and just begin a startup.
Mm-hmm.
The process is obviously a very long and lengthy, trodden path that there's no like one size fits all kind of process, right?
Yes.
And like along with that process, there's also all these types of challenges that come along the way. So
Mm-hmm.
could you like share with us like some of the most, pertinent challenges or struggles that you've encountered personally,
Mm-hmm.
especially with BlackGrid and this new startup, DatsPro Tech?
Okay, so I'll try and separate them both because both have different challenges. Because
Okay.
in the US, I face different challenges, and in Malaysia, it's very different, right? So let's start
Okay.
with BlackGrid. So when I started the company, of course, the issue at that time was the fact that whether potential clients can actually trust me to be able to deliver on my work,
Hmm.
right? Um, I, I I was pretty much at a disadvantage because I don't speak the way they speak. Like I don't have an American accent. I
Yeah.
don't look white. I am not white. I'm Asian. And even though at that time I was 24 or 25 years old, they all thought I was actually 19 because Asians look younger than we are, right? Than the actual age, right?
Yeah.
So I struggled in terms of getting clients the first 3 and 4 months when I started the business. Reason being, I had to build that trust, right? To be able to basically tell them like, hey, you can trust me because I mean I don't blame them because I have all these disadvantages. Like I just got out of college, I look super young. The only thing that I had going for me was, oh, you're Asian, so I guess you're good with computers. So yeah, I'm good with computers. So
Yeah.
as good as my computer thing, okay, that's a good thing. So I kept so for me to be able to make them trust me is I have to keep on showing up. I have to keep on be in their face like I'm here to stay. I'm here and I'm not just like telling you I can do this and then I'll go away. So I kept on
Yeah.
going to different kinds of like business networking meetings, business clubs and things like that. And I kept on going not only once, but at least I put a limit like at least 5 times. If I don't see much improvements, then maybe I can reconsider whether I can still go on. Because each time I have to go in, I still have to spend some money to be able to like register to be part of the session, right? So it came to a point that I tried to add as much value as possible. So when I interact with people, I would usually ask a lot of questions about their business, like what are their pain points, like what is it that they're doing in their business that they think that can actually change things overnight for them. And I of course I would add things from what I know about SEO, about digital marketing and things like that. And then eventually it came to a point like there was this one club that was in the tip because they were saying like, okay, to next week we don't have like a presenter, the presenter is not able to make it. Would you
Mm.
be willing to present in a short notice? And I was like, wow, I've never presented things like this. And then I thought to myself that I guess this is now or never kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I just like,
Yeah.
I just said yes. I didn't have a deck. I didn't know what specifically I wanted to do. So I had about a week to prepare. And then I went there and I did this like SEO 101 thing,
Yeah.
presentation. I think, I don't know whether I've done it with you or not, but I've used that variation in terms of different things and different times when I had workshops and whatnot, because I knew that I tried to make SEO very simple. I want people to understand like this is
Mm.
SEO actually. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
But of course, you want to know more, talk to me. I want them to talk to me, right? Then I did that presentation. It went really well, and because of that presentation, I sort of got my second or third client from there. And they said, hey, can we talk? I think I want to learn more about what you do. And then from then on, I got another referral to, hey, I heard that you did a presentation there. Could you do something for our chapter as well? And I said yes. Then yeah, that helped me in a way. And the fact that some other things like like the fact that I'm an international student. It's all sort of like a gray area kind of thing, like to run your own business, to be an international student on a student visa. So
Just
I had
like
a lot of like restrictions, correct. So I can't be like on the map kind of thing, like I'm here, I'm big, I'm loud, I can't do that.
yeah,
Just to be safe for myself. So I kept my team small, but of course I only got team members like after 6 or 7 months after I was in the business, because while I was doing that, I actually, of course, I still need to feed myself, right, and pay rent and whatnot. I drove for Uber, and I actually worked with another mentor on the side. I did real estate, but I guess that's something else, because from that also stemmed um, ways for me to be able to write my book eventually about 2 years after that. The mash of
Mhm.
like real estate experience plus real estate clients and SEO knowledge, and put myself on the book that I wrote,
Yeah.
yeah, in 2018. So yeah, that's the part where I had to go through in the US. But in Malaysia specifically about DatsPro and also BlackGrid is this. Malaysian companies do not like to understand what they buy. They just want the end goal. B-
Okay.
I don't know the fact that because my gosh, everyone's busy, all business owners just want results and things like that. But what we realize is that we would have to go through a lot of like a longer educational process in our sales process to be able to persuade them like you actually need this compared
Right.
to the US. There's another thing also is that in the US, they like to hire specialists. Like if you are an SEO company, you just do that, and I'll hire another company that does social media marketing or website, and you guys work together and help me out, right?
Right.
In Malaysia, they like to do this. You do SEO. Oh, can you do social media too? You do website. Okay, package it together, can, and then discount. They like to do that, and they don't want to know how it works. They don't want to know all that. They just want to know the packages, and then if it makes sense in their budget,
Yeah.
okay, we'll give it a try.
That is so
Yeah,
Malaysian.
yeah. So in some ways, like sometimes when we are bringing technology that can help businesses to improve, I'm not saying all businesses like this, but a lot of them that we've dealt with personally are like that, and it became a challenge to for us to even change our sales process. That it used to be we deal with a lot very customization process in
Yeah.
terms of our proposals and things like that. But now we have to offer packages. We have to
Yeah.
tell them upfront this is what they get, and then we tell them like this is how we do it, and we teach them the process and things and whatnot. Some of them want to listen, some of them don't care, but we knew that if we provide them this much value, but at the same time, they pay for it, then it's okay,
Mhm.
because in the US, if you give free value, they appreciate it. But of
Ah,
course,
okay.
there's a caveat to that. Of course, not everyone will appreciate it. But in Malaysia, if you give freebies, they tend to take it for granted a lot more um, compared to like if they pay for something, then they would value it. Then it's like, okay, I paid 100 ringgit. It's still money, and I would listen to you, or I would make sure I make full use of it. But if I were to give something free, it's like it's in hindsight, like I don't care, I need it or not. Yeah. So those are some of the challenges that we faced in terms of like trying to help Malaysian SMEs to adopt digitalization in their businesses. I know it's like very specific problems, but again, I do not know how to change that. But I guess along the way, from what my realization is this, the this might be a bit more towards SEO. In the US market is very very mature. People know that they need it. They just need to find the right vendors. In Malaysia, they they do not know whether they need it. They don't know the power behind it. But eventually, it will get there. The fact that because whatever happening with COVID-19 and things like that, people are forced to be online. People are
Yeah.
forced to digitalize their business. Have to, if not, they can't survive, and they can't make sure that their business runs um, more than a year or two from now, because it's going to be very tough. People would want to only work with businesses that can adapt towards new change, right? And we don't know how long this will last. It might be just another 2 months. It might be 2 years. We don't know, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that people are forced into this kind of new normal is quite, in some ways, um, it's it's kind of um, it's unfair to a lot of businesses. That's one,
Yeah.
because I know some businesses can't do it.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's also an open opportunity for businesses who can actually adapt during this time and can actually create
And like
real
skyrocket.
value for them. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that sharing, especially like in terms of challenges, because like I'm sure a lot of people can relate when they want to, start things, like especially from fresh. So I
Yes.
just want to ask, like, for like in your opinion, with your experience with your company as well as your startup experience as well. So what's your take on students and youth and the youth in general planning to venture into startups or like
Mm,
work for themselves, like being an entrepreneur themselves, especially when it comes to like juggling their studies and like juggling this side hustle thing?
right. True entrepreneurs would would not have the thoughts of like, should I start a business? Is it risky? Is it something that I want to do? Should I go to work first and do that? True
Hmm.
entrepreneurs would just start it and eventually build it, and would figure out ways on how to like pay bills and things like that by taking different things on the side, because they know their end goal is what, I want to build a business, and this is a business I want to build. I have to do this other jobs on the side to be able to basically fuel my energy and my pathway into sort of building a business, right? But
Hmm.
all not everyone is built that way, and entrepreneurship might not be for everyone, right? But let's say if you are thinking about it, if you're a student, you're youthful, you're young, like, I think I can start a startup now
Yeah.
and help businesses. There are two things that I think that you should think about first. Like, what's your skill set that you know that you have? Like, really, really audit yourself. Like, what kind of
Hmm.
skill sets you have right now that can be valuable in a business. It could be operations. You're good at operations because you had experience in the past, or you like that part. You're very good at finance because you're good with numbers. Or you could be the type of person that's good at strategy, like thinking about like case studies, like this is how I'm going to map out things, but you might
Right.
not be able to execute. It's fine. You can find an operational guy that can execute things, right? Because in a business, there are there's a trinity of three things to be a successful startup or business. You need to be good in terms of the investment part. Number two, you need to be good at operations, and you need to have good management. Management is
Hmm.
for decision making, strategy, where to go, and things like operations is where the executional part. And the third one is investment. If of course you want to scale things, you have to put in money, how
Yeah.
and what, which part of the business. So you might want to see what kind of skill sets you have to be able to put in which bucket, right?
Right.
Number two is knowing the reason why you're studying the business. For me, for myself, I knew I've always wanted to start a business, and even as it got tough, it got to a point where I couldn't even find money to eat for a certain day, that I had to save and
Mhm.
ration to be able to make sure that I keep my dream alive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just an example, right? But it's quite tough. It's not something that, I mean, there's a lot of like startups that go out like, hey, okay, and then they raise 1 million ringgit or 1 million US dollars, and then they go another seed round, and then they go another round and things like that. But there's so many businesses that actually fail, and even startups that got to that point will eventually fail. But before you get to that point, people fail to realize that these people already had these skill sets or connections or the resources to get to where
Mhm.
they are,
Yeah, like those
right?
advantages, right?
Correct. So that's why when
Right.
I said during this podcast and at the start, it's like knowing what kind of resources that you have around you, make full use of it, and then make something out of it. Yeah,
Right.
being an
Absolutely.
entrepreneur, you have to be resourceful. You can't be someone that, okay, I'm hoping there's a technology that can come and help
Yeah.
me, or this funding, or this one guy, or I need salespeople that can eventually do this. If you don't have that, you need to be the one that that
Yeah.
does it, all right? Or maybe you go out there and get someone that actually do something that you can't do it at that time. So you need to have that. But thirdly, this is just want to add that if you're planning to start a business, you can start it as a side hustle first. You don't have to like quit a job and go all in. unless it's like a $1 billion kind of idea like Facebook, but very rarely it is like $1 billion idea
Mhm.
until it's actually proven 3 to 5 years after, right?
Yeah.
So to be safe, if you're working or if you're planning to get a job first right after graduation, go ahead, get some experience, because you might be able to learn management skills, you might be able to learn decision making skills, and even operations from
Mhm.
working at world-class institutions or businesses or companies. Then you can take that little by little and put it in the business that you want to build, basically. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and remember when I said about studying the business that, or studying a project that you believe in, and that you have to remember why you started it. It's
Yeah.
because when it gets tough for you, it could be financial, it could be just the stress, it could be just the point where you tried your best but it's not growing, right?
Yeah.
You have to remember why you started it so that you can get back on track and be focused.
Mhm.
Yeah, those are the main things that I think really great takeaways for anyone thinking about entrepreneurship or startups or starting their own business at any point in life they are at.
Absolutely. I think honestly that Trinity proves to be quite resourceful. Like, especially when you have to get people to realize, the types of opportunities that they have in their location. Like they
Yes,
can't make up for things that they don't have, but
yes,
things that they already have and make use of it. That's
correct.
honestly pretty strong advice, lah.
Yeah. But
So,
one more thing, sorry, one more thing to
I
add.
don't know.
And if you're planning to start a business, you don't have to start like a sexy tech business, a tech thing. Like it doesn't have to be that way. It could be a traditional business that can make you a lot of money too. But again, it all boils down to what you want to do and why you want to do it. So you need to
Mhm.
audit yourself.
So, like with these advices that you've told me, is there like
Mhm.
one advice that you wish you would have known at that point in your life, like especially in college, like when everything just started sprouting up?
Hmm. Um, One thing that I would have known that I wish I could have done it first is, okay, this is it might contradict, I might contradict myself here, right?
Mhm.
But if I had the chance to turn back time, might have not started my business right after graduation. I might have gone to different opportunities, like going to be a management consultant, or different opportunities, or management trainee, and like all those big programs that they have right
Yeah.
now, and eventually build something on the side and
Mhm.
go that way. But
Oh.
the reason being is like this. Like this is my own personal opinion, but it could be different. But because I made a different decision, that's what made me who I am today. But
Mhm.
this is me. This might actually help some people or some of the audience here, that you'll be able to be financially stable while also building it. You will be able to build on your skill set, your experience, on someone else's time and money, compared
Oh.
to you learning things, doing on your own, and you
Yeah.
don't get paid for it.
Oh.
Of
Okay.
course, you have
I
to
understand.
deliver your work, right? Like
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
go work at a bank or whatever, you're still getting your salary.
Hmm.
You are learning as you work, and your manager's teaching you things as well, and you're doing all that. You're getting paid,
Yeah.
and you can spend your extra time to build something else, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So if I had the chance to actually turn back time, I would definitely have done something like that. But I have no regrets, because the decisions I made accelerated things for me to get to where I am. Because who knows, if I took that route, I went to business, it might not have worked out for me, right? Because the things that I've learned for the past 5 years, not only helped me to do business better each day, but also made me a better person.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Like, I obviously understand that type of regret. That you wish you would have done things and people would have paid you for it, which is completely
Correct.
understandable. But I'm sure like you also are also grateful and have gratitude for like just enduring that hustle and like
Correct.
starting that company, right? Because I'm sure
Yes.
that's something that's grateful to be about, right?
I'm super grateful that I made the decision, regardless of all the blood, sweat, and tears that went through those years. Certain times, because I mean, in business, there's always ups and downs, right? It's
Yeah,
not always green and nice. I mean, that's how we like to
absolutely.
portray our business, right? But when you're actually behind it, You see your cash flow, you see what your team is going through, you see what your clients are saying.
It's like a lot more personal, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I am grateful of where I am right now and what I've went through, because like I said, without it, I won't be able to share things that I have right now today. It might, if yeah, I mean the things that I shared is very personal, it's very real. But
Yeah,
if I say that, oh, I came from corporate and now I start my own business, it would sound very, what do you call it, generic. Like it's like
yeah, yeah.
the
It
regular
does.
advice. Oh, this is what you need to
Yeah,
do. You need to
yeah,
take courses and things like that. It's just me telling you as it is.
yeah, yeah.
While I was doing it, and I had to adapt. Yeah.
Absolutely. Honestly, this was really it was a really nice conversation to have with you, Nabil. Really personal, and I honestly felt, you know, maybe just surface level of what you've been feeling, but obviously I can't relate to it entirely.
Mhm.
But I'm sure most of our listeners can also understand as well, right?
It's all thanks to
So,
you. You ask great questions. the,
oh man, no.
the first question that you asked me, like, oh my god, what did I get myself into today? Asking about my childhood.
All right, Nabil, it has really been a pleasure for us and the listeners to have you on board on our podcast series, and we're so grateful. So thank you so much for spending the time, in your day, spending it with us.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you to you, Daniel, and thank you to Adrian as well, and the whole team for having me to be able to share my stories and experiences to you guys. And I hope it has added value to some of you listening in.
Absolutely, I'm sure it definitely has. So to summarize, all your past experience, do you have any particular words of wisdom or like any particular advice you'd like to give to the youth listening out there to the podcast?
All right. So again, Daniel, great question. You put me on the spot again, but my last statement I would say is take that first step, and you'll figure things out along the way. It's always that way. It's scary before starting, but when you actually take that first step, everything will become more clear and less
Hmm.
scary for you, and you can achieve a lot more. And regardless of whatever direction you take, it could be entrepreneurship, it could be a career, it could be taking a master's program or anything at all. Just take that first step, and then you'll be fine. That's me
Absolutely.
sharing from my own personal experiences.
Thank you. Like I think we could also relate that to, Nike's motto, just do it. Just take that
Yes,
first step, right? So thank you,
exactly.
Nabil, for that word of wisdom. So everyone, that's all for this episode of ICMS's Hearing Youth, where we hear you. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in and providing your support as a listener and as well as the audience. So we appreciate all the listeners out there for listening to our podcast. And we'll see you again on our next episode of ICMS's Hearing Youth series. Thank you.